Jihun stared right into Jango's eyes, startling her. She never thought that they could run into each other one day. And every time she thought about it happening, she resolved herself that she won't become upset even if she sees him. But even after telling herself so hundreds of times, it was still hard for her to do so. Jihun let go of Jango. Looking at him, her hand clenched as she tried to contain her emotion. And the two spent a moment gazing at each other. Miran, who observed this intense, silent exchange, suddenly barged between the two. She introduced Jango as the new copywriter from the second production team. Jihun finally opens his mouth and reiterates, "Ah, the copywriter. Pleasure to meet you," as he reached out his hands for a greeting handshake, then introduced himself as Jang Jihun as if he met her for the first time. Looking at his hand reaching out for a handshake, she thought to herself, was that his answer? Pretending not to know her. In front of a building door, a young boy was screaming loudly, "No." As the woman tried to take him in, he tried pulling away from her as he shouted repeatedly that he does not want to go, while the woman looked frustrated and said, "He will be in big trouble when they get home." The little boy stated that the place was boring. He was not going to go to classes. The woman stated that he was the one that said going the TV was entertaining. He was the one that said he wanted to take classes for it in the first place. She crossed her arms, trying to retain her anger as she reasoned. "I already paid for everything. Why did you change your mind already?" The boy sulked as he faced the wall, but in the end, he had no choice but to wipe his snots and went in with his mother. In front of the classroom door, the woman knelt down and reasoned with the boy patiently. "Honey, just go for 30 minutes. If you stay here and learn go for 30 minutes, I'll let you play video games for 30 minutes later." Wiping his tears, the boy counters his mother and asks for 1 hour of game time instead of 30 minutes. She sighed and agreed. She rushed him inside. After the boy went inside, the woman sighed even more and thought if she was really a good mother. As always, she has taken his gaming time as a hostage. The boy sat on a chair in front of a Go board, wiping his tears still, when he was approached by a little girl. She pulled the chair and said, "Hey, stop crying and look over here." He looked at her confusedly. She sat down and started showing him Go, teaching him the basic way of playing Go. He saw her do the hand gesture and he copied her. As he asked, "Why?" She told him to hold still. Then she placed some Go pebbles on top of his hand. He asked her what she was doing. She told him, if he let the pebble drop, she is going to flick his forehead. She didn't explain but smiled at him. His face flushed as he stared at her blankly. She introduced herself as Li Yina, then asked what's his name? He replied while still maintaining the same hand position. "Park Do-bin." Li Yina asked, "You go to Oriole daycare, right?" Startled by the question, he asked, "How did you know?" Li Yina told him that she saw his name on his bag yesterday. Do-bin blushed even more, thinking, she's been watching me since yesterday? On Do-bin's hand, there are 5 black pebbles surrounding 1 white pebble in the middle. Yina pointed at his hand and asked him to look, telling him that the stones are black and white. He replied unexcitedly that he knew the color. She asked if he wants to be black or white. He answered, black. She then grabbed the white stone between her fingers and placed the stone on the board. "To earn points for my piece, do you know what you must do?" she asked. Do-bin looked at the board intently and placed his black stones on 4 corners surrounding Yina's white stone. Surprised, she asked him if he knew how to play. If he knew how to play, why was he crying? He shouldn't cry. And in that instant, his face blushed, feeling touched. "I, Park Do-bin, have never met a woman like this in my entire 6 years of life." While outside of the classroom door, Do-bin's mother stood waiting for him. It's been 30 minutes, but he has yet to come out. What if he's just been crying all this time? Then the door was pushed open and Do-bin came out, but he was still waving his hand, happily towards the classroom. His mom noticed that he was smiling. Her Park Do-bin was smiling, as if a miracle had happened. Once he was done saying his byes, he ran to his mother with a new emotion, full of flower blooming. His mom hugged him and asked him how his class? Did he have fun? To which he replied happily, yeah, he had lots of fun. She asked what did he had the most fun with. He blushed again and asked, Mom, did you experience love at first sight with Dad? Mom chuckled and asked, do you even know what that means? Remembering Yina's cute facial expression, he answered, I do. Because he felt it, he experienced it today. As they walked to the elevator, Do-bin told his mom that from now on, he will try his best and go classes every day. Back at Max Planning, Director Jang Ji-hun's office, he looked dazed, just staring at the work in front of him. He sighed and rubbed his brows. Why was it bothering him so much? The copywriter from the second production team, as he tried to recall her name. She makes him feel peculiar. It's quite unpleasant. While still thinking about Jango, Miran entered through the door. He was carrying a file and handed it to Jihun. It contains the lists of PT applicants. He took the document, glanced at it briefly and signed it, then asked if the new copywriter had received a physical examination. Confused, Miran asked if she must have since it's mandatory. Jihun explained that she looked as though she was going to collapse any minute. It seemed like there was a problem with her health. Miran chuckled lightly and thought, she became fine as soon as she got away from you. But what came out of her mouth was, maybe it's because she was nervous? You are quite the striking figure, Sue. Jihun asked seriously, does it look like I'm joking right now? His serious tone startled Miran. Jihun told Miran to bring assistant manager Lee Jong-o to him right now. Jihun was orienting Jong-o the process of their work and how to send her work. Just put it in the company's shared folder. It's convenient because she just has to drag it over. Jong-o told him that she used cloud storage at her previous company. Isn't he concerned about security? Jihun explained that they put folder passwords for confidential files, which was something new to her. She thanked him that she learned something. Jihun, trying to be humbled, reasoned that he only told her what he knew. Then Miran came to interrupt Jihun's moment of being praised. She told Jong-o that director Jang Jian asked for her. In the end, Miran gloomily led Jong-o to the director's office. Seeing Miran looking gloomed, Jong-o stated that she can go by herself. Miran replied enthusiastically that she can go there by herself. Miran insisted that she'll accompany Jong-o, but please be cautious. It's quite intense. Then she continued to lead the way, leaving Jong-o clueless as to why. He acted as if they were complete strangers. As she thought, is he going to ask her to resign? He's telling her to screw off because she was an obstacle in his life? A lot of things came to her mind as she made her way to the director's office. Miran entered the office and notified the director that she brought assistant manager Lee Jong-o with her. Jihun stood up, walked to her and asked, Assistant manager Lee Jong-o, are you all ready? Yes. She replied, not sure where he was heading with this question. Jihun reasoned that she looked uncomfortable when they met. She applied for Ivory Planning, but she entered Max Planning. Was she disappointed because it was not the company she applied for? Because Max Planning is better in everything. She started out feeling touched, but the last sentence unimpressed her. Why would he call her to say such weird things? Jihun asked if she can do her job well. Jong-o held back her anger and let out a single word, yes. Jihun smiled and stated he thought she would answer better because she is a copywriter. Jong-o pouted inwardly. Did he call her there just to nitpick? But she reasoned that she is different when she is working. She'll work hard. Jihun told her to work hard because he will be looking at her work. The sunset rays shone through the blinds, indicating it's the end of the work day. Jihun put on his suit jacket, ready to go home. Then his friend came through the door, asking, Director, are you heading home? Jihun told Sung-yu to act like normal. Sung-yu answered, I'm still not used to it. I feel like you're out of my reach, directory. Should I move you to the annex so that you can adjust quickly? Jihun questioned. Sung-yu trembled in fear. Oh no. Are you serious? Jihun chuckled that he totally got Sung-yu. Gosh. Hey. I got goosebumps because of you. Don't joke around with me. When you say things like that, I keep thinking that you're serious. Jihun paused briefly if he thought of something. Is it scary when I say it? Sung-yu replied furiously, of course. It's also scary that you're asking this. Jihun seemed a little disappointed and asked, I'm that scary. Huh. Why is there something wrong? Sungyu asked. There's one new employee. The two got inside the elevator. Sungyu answered, yeah, I know. Assistant manager Lee Jong-oh. She's a copywriter. What's wrong with her? Jihun replied, her face goes pale when she sees me. Sungyu let out a sigh. You think only one or two people are like that? Then he paused and rubbed his chin. Hold on. Jihun saw her face. The Jihun he knew? As if something came to mind instantly. He chuckled gleefully. I see. My friend. Assistant manager Lee Jong-oh is pretty, right? Sungyu continued to make weird happy faces, thinking there must be something going on, seeing how Jihun was avoiding the question. He then asked, what are you doing after this? If you have nothing to do you want to go to my house? Jihun questioned. Why would I go there? The two men got out of the elevator. Sungyu answered, your mother, who's like a god, told me to invite you sometimes. Jihun asked, why would you care about those words? Just pretend to listen to her? Sungyu replied, you have to show a harmonious family so that you can get married quickly. Jihun excused himself and left towards the car, leaving Sungyu to question. Pretend? Does he think I'm the same as him? Jihun went to his car where a driver was standing outside in a straight posture, waiting for him. Jihun got in the car. A life where he only has to pretend. A life where he doesn't feel bad at all for losing 3 years of memories. A life where he just has to maintain things the way they are quietly, without having to try his best. He is living that kind of boring life. Jihun arrived at his home and switched the light on. He threw his jacket and tie on the couch, took off his watch, and placed it on top of his jacket. He fiddled with his buttons while thinking he preferred long-haired women. Is it because of her name? He has a weird obsession with 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. Jango. Lee Jango. Jihun thought repeatedly as he drank his water. He repeated her names going from the kitchen to the living room. He slumped on the couch and still said her name, Lee Jong-oh, closing his eyes for a rest. Slowly, his eyes opened and looked towards the door. He heard something coming from the doorknob. The person that walked in shocked him awake. Jihun sat up, surprised to see Lee Jong-oh standing in his house. What's this? You. How did you? Lee Jong-oh looked at him full of grievances and longing at the same time. She rushed to him and sat on top of him. She looked at him without uttering a word, observed his face as leaned in closer to him. Then she locked lips with him, kissing him passionately. At first, he was shocked and then accepted the passions from her. He hugged her and swung her over to lie down on the couch while he knelt on top of her. Then his eyes opened wide, huffing, only to find that he fell onto the floor where did. He looked around frantically, unable to discern reality from dream for a brief second. I'm crazy. You're going crazy, Jihun. He scolded himself when he came to. Jong-oh stumbled home angrily, complaining why was Jihun so grumpy? Did he really just call her into his office to talk about something like that? She sighed as she reached home. While she walked up the stairs, her thoughts continued to run. He's not the Jihun she once knew. Flashing back to the past. No, the Jihun from back then must have been a lie. But, whatever. It's fine. Because as she pushed the door open, because the reason, came rushing up to her with arms in the air, smiling happily to greet her. Because she has Yena. She knelt down and gave her daughter a great big hug. Mother and daughter embrace each other, like glue. She picked up her daughter, while her mother poked her head from the kitchen, surprised that she was not working overtime. Jango explained that it's only her first day, so she was not working overtime. She took her daughter to sit on the couch and asked, how was Yena today? Was school fun? Yena, still clinging onto her mother's neck, replied, yeah, Mommy, I made a new friend at school today. She asked, are you best friends now? Yena answered, not yet. They don't know anything about Go. She replied, in that case, you should teach them. What's their name? Park Do-bin. Yena answered, it's a boy? She asked. Yep. His mom came to school yesterday and today too. And I think she's coming tomorrow too. Jango asked, Are you jealous of Dobin? Yena replied a little sad. No, just a little bit. Jango felt so guilty. She hugged her daughter tightly. My princess. I'm sorry. It's not like I haven't thought about how much easier things would be if your father was here, but doesn't he realize that I gave birth to his child? Did he think I would have given her up? The more she thought, the gloomier her mood became. Does he have a lot of women? Probably. He's the kind of person who'd be open about such things. Then she sighed and questioned, Should I just quit? At a luxury mansion, inside a large, spacious luxury kitchen, a family of 3 ate their breakfast. Jihun rubbed his shoulder. His mother, worried, asked, Son, what's the matter? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Jihun thought of when he fell off the couch having that kind of dream. He definitely cannot say that, so instead, he replied, I probably just didn't sleep very well. Then, his father told him, You should keep your composure in front of the employees. You don't want to cause any misunderstanding. Jihun answered, Of course. His father asked, How's your new job? Is it a worthwhile one? It's all right, he replied. His mother interceded, Honey, Jihun just came home after a long day, and all you want to talk about is work. Then she turned to Jihun excitedly, By the way, Unai is in that company too. But Jihun did not respond to her. Instead, he asked his father, What about my brother? His mother felt upset at being neglected while his father told him that his brother had been called on a sudden business trip. Jihun looked through the wall shelf full of books, display items, and memories. He felt strange whenever he visited his parents' house. His childhood memories are clear, but he has no recollection of anything from 7 years ago. That realization struck a chord in him. His thoughts were interrupted by his mother, calling him, Son, what are you doing? He turned in her direction and replied, Just some stuff. What about father? His mother replied, He had already left for work. I told him to say goodbye to you, but he said he was in a rush. Jihun stated that he should leave for work now too. His mother did not stop him. She encouraged him to go out. As she turned away, he asked, Mother, those 3 years of missing memories, what happened? Anxiousness showed on her face, but she brushed it off with a fake smile. You joined the military. But besides that, there's nothing else in particular. Jihun turned around, scratched his head. So it was because of my military service. His mother called out, Having no memories just means that there's no need for you to dwell on it anymore. His mother walked towards him and pointed at his forehead. Do you remember? Back then, you had a red mark over here. I could guess your thoughts just by looking at it. Whenever you were in a bad mood, it would turn red. Jihun smiled and covered his forehead. I remember. That's why I used my bangs to cover it up. It's not a pleasant feeling to have our thoughts be broadcasted. She told him to talk to her if he is having any troubles. He answered he would. She hugged him and said, I love you, my son. You're all I've got. At Max Planning, Jango arrived at work feeling exhausted. She couldn't sleep last night. Jihun shouted, Good morning. Jango quickly changed her mood and greeted him back, surprised he came early. Jihun answered, It was because he was still new. Just as Jango was about to settle down on her chair, Jihun came and asked, Would you like to accompany me to the break room? I can teach you how to use the coffee machine. Jango replied, Sure. Let me just put my things down first. She sat down, looked in her purse and took out a jug but was startled at the voice calling loudly, Oh my! Who do we have here? Li Jango. Is it really you? Do you remember me? She turned around looking at the woman approaching her. Hey, Jango, it's me, Unai. She answered with some anxiety. I remember you. Unai. In her mind, she thought, There's no way I could ever forget you. Flashing back to the school day of Unai. Unai grabbed onto Jango's hand without reservation and greeted happily, It's really nice to see you again. How have you been all these years? Jango answered awkwardly, Oh, I've been okay. Are you also working here? Yes. I'm a copywriter here. So, You're the production team's assistant manager? How many years has it been? Jango seemed uninterested, but Chayun-bai wouldn't let her go. She replied, It's been a year. Chayun-bai, really? What have you been doing? But then she wanted to show her position. She didn't wait for Jango to answer. She showed off. I'm a manager. Flashback to high school year. Unai and Jango were classmates during their first year. In the classroom, before class starts, Unai handed a lipstick to Jango. Do you want this? I've never used it. Jango politely declined, stating she does not wear makeup. Unai reasoned, your face is pretty, so it would be prettier if you put on makeup. And this is a designer item. Jango politely declined again. No, it's really fine. I really don't need it, Unai. Sorry. Unai looked flustered and frustrated as she took back the lipstick. That was the only interaction Jango had with Unai. And then, a few days later, in the school cafeteria, Jango came to get her school lunch. She met her mother, who was serving food, and greeted her mom happily. Her mom hushed her to be quiet, but she was still happy that her daughter was so pure. Jango waved at her mother. I will enjoy it, Mom. See you later. The school bully, Unai, noticed the whole thing from a distance. When it was her turn to get the bowl served, Jango's mother wiped the sweat from her forehead with her sleeve before scooping the soup into the bowl. Unai called out, Auntie, how could you serve the meal with sweaty hands? You should change your gloves. This startled Jango's mother. She reached down to change her gloves. I apologize. I will change them and serve the meal again. However, I didn't wipe the sweat with my hands. I used my sleeves. Anyways, I'm sorry. Enjoy your. Then Unai slapped the bowl away, causing the food tray and bowl to fall off the counter. But the noise attracted people's attention, including Jango, who was happily enjoying her meal. Another lunch lady came over and asked, What's happening? Unai's friend accused Jango's mother as they pointed fingers. She threw a soup bowl at Unai after Unai complained about hygiene. Another student asked, Oh no. Did you get hurt? While Unai pretended to be a victim. Jango's mother explained, No, that's a misunderstanding. Unai shouted, Apologize. As an adult, you shouldn't be like that. You should apologize like an adult. Jango stood up, trembling in anger, walked up about to confront the situation, but her mother mouthed her not to go over. She gritted her teeth and could only watch the injustice done to her mother. Her mother apologized and was forced to quit her job at the cafeteria. During classes, rumors went around the school. People whispered among themselves as if Jango wasn't present. I heard that the cafeteria lady who pushed Unai last time is Jango's mom. Another student stated, I also heard that she took the leftover side dishes from the cafeteria home. She did it to feed her. While another asked, What is it? Is she a school lunch beggar? Ha 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 ha. Unai, the White Lotus, replied, Hey, guys, you shouldn't talk like that. And the scene is brought back to the current. Jango answered, So, you're the manager. The White Lotus Unai replied, Yes. So, use the honorifics properly in the company. You know that much, right? Then, we'll see each other more often. Keep up the good work. Jango stood there with a blank expression, her brain still loading, trying to grasp the situation. She sat down and sighed. Jihun, and then, Unai. There is one more reason to quit this job. Should I just write a resignation letter now? A work call came in. Jango picked up the call. Yes, this is production team 2. The other person stated, I'm Park Sung-yu from the HR team. Could you please come to the HR team for a moment? She hung up the phone and walked over to HR, questioning why the HR team. Upon arrival at the door, Sung-yu had just grabbed some printed papers at the copier. She met him by the door. You're here, Assistant Manager Lee. This way, please. I don't know if you heard it before, but there's a change in salary. He gestured to her to sit down on the chair. A change? She questioned. She picked up the paper and glanced at it. Sung-yu stated, It has been raised. The existing contract terms and conditions reflect this year's salary increase. Is that okay? Jango pointed at the signature area on the paper and asked, "Should I sign here?" She proceeded to sign her name. She threw out Jihun and Unai as now she is surrounded by money. This company. I think it's not that bad. After she signed, Sungyu handed her another piece of paper to fill. This is personal information that the HR team manages separately. Please fill it out. Jango reached to receive the paper thinking, okay, just endure it. Looking at the form information, there's no family relationship in the form. Sungyu asked if there was any problem. To Jango, that is probably for the best. Unless Jihun finds out for himself, she does not want Jihun to know about Yena. Marriage status. She circled single, and that should be enough. Honestly, she thinks it's a good company to build her career. The location is also good. She sighed as she got out of the elevator and convinced herself to stay. Just for a few years. As long as she could avoid Jang Jihun and Che Unai. Just as she was lost in thought, she noticed Jang Jihun walking with a female teacher, followed by some small children behind the glass. The unexpected sight terrified her as she wanted to avoid him at all cost. Out of instinct, she started to run and hide. She hid around the corner, questioning why she saw this. Then she remembered. It was announced yesterday. This event was sent out that children from nursery's daycare center will visit Max Planning. Jang Jihun, do the little ones look cute in your eyes, too? Humph. She didn't think he would find children cute. The teacher spoke enthusiastically to Jang Jihun. Thank you for the invitation. He answered, yes, I hope it will be a beneficial time for the children. The auditorium is upstairs. The teacher handed a gift bag to Jang Jihun. This is a small gesture, but we baked cookies. The kids spent all day yesterday making them. We made it with a pastry chef, so I'm sure it will taste good. Please eat it with other staff. There's also cards written by the children inside. Jihun took the gift bag and thanked the teacher. The kids waved goodbyes before heading upstairs. He waved back, but as soon as the elevator door closed, he headed towards the trash bin at the corner. Seeing that he was about to drop the cookie bag into the trash, Jango screamed, "No!" As she leaped towards Jihun, she grabbed his wrist, causing the bag to fall into the trash. She felt so disappointed, watching the bag drop. My child's father is this kind of person. Angered, she scolded, "How could you throw it away?" Jihun was grabbed out of nowhere. It startled him momentarily, but at the same time, sensed that the hand felt a little familiar. But before he could react, she let go of his hand. As she pulled her hand away, he reached out and grabbed her hand this time around. He asked, "Shall we have a chat?" At this moment, Sungyu walked out from the elevator and noticed the hand grabbing. This scene scared him shitless. "Hey this. Director. What are you doing here?" He rushed up to them and took Jihun away like the wind. "Please come quickly. You're late." At the elevator door, he spoke, "Please excuse us," insistently. "No, I mean sorry. I'm sorry. I'll contact you in a bit." The door closed and then he left just as fast as when he arrived, leaving Jango confused. Inside the elevator, Sungyu nagged, "Hey, you really gave me a heart attack back there." Jihun was still lost in the moment when she held his hand, while Sungyu continued to lecture, "You're going to get into trouble. How can you just grab a female employee like that? No matter how much you may desire her, you cannot just do that." Jihun spoke calmly, "That woman." Sungyu is flaming with anger at Jihun's dazed reaction. "She's not just that woman. She's Assistant Lee Jango." Jihun replied, "You just used informal speech with me." Jango walked back to her cubicle complaining in her head, "I knew it. Everything he showed me back then was fake. I cannot help but feel bitter about it." The phone rang when she arrived at her cubicle. She picked up and Park Sungyu spoke through the line. "You must have been surprised earlier, right? I apologize for that on his behalf." "I'm sorry." Jango felt irked, asking why Sungyu was the one apologizing. Can't Jang Jihun even apologize for himself? Sungyu continued, "Actually, I'm a friend of Director Jang. We were classmates in high school. He was also my senior in the military, though he may not remember that. Still as a friend, I have the guts to give him some advice. I'll definitely make sure he apologizes to you. Jango stated, it's okay. It's not something that needs to be apologized for. Sungyu sounded happy that Jango didn't make a big deal out of it. As a courtesy, he told her to let him know if she were to experience any inconveniences at work. He will do his best to resolve it for her. Jango sounded calm and composed on the phone, but the moment she hung up the phone, she complained. How uncomfortable. She wanted to go home. Her soul was seen leaving her body. But the soul couldn't leave just yet, as Miran came to her cubicle. Yes, ma'am, Miran told her. I just wanted to remind you about the liquor meeting later at 10 o'clock. Yes, of course. She answered. I'll see you later then. Hang in there. Miran encouraged. Jango wanted to clutch her frustration. Meeting. She heard it was a collaboration with Chai Unbai's team. Can't the day get any worse? In the conference room, Team 1 and Team 2 met. Miran introduced Li Jango to Team 1. Chai Unbai shouted with her White Lotus acting, Wow, you survived. I don't know what I'd do if I had to do all the copywriting on my own. I look forward to working with you. The team started discussing about the concept for the beer product, a special beer for me to enjoy alone after work. One point leads to another point regarding relationship status. Jihun asked Jango if she has a boyfriend. I don't. Chai Unbai laughed fakely, flashing her ring in front of everyone. Side note, I'm really started to not like this White Lotus. She probably bought that ring herself. I might not be well suited for this then. It's been a long time since I was single. Why don't we ask Assistant Lee to write the main script? Miran wrapped up the meeting and dismissed everyone. Chai Unbai cut right in front of Jango, trying to butter up Miran. Boss, you must have been tired. Miran replied, I suppose. I don't feel too good. All right, when do you plan on getting married? With her fake laugh and flashing her ring again. Well, the thing is, my mother wants us to have it this year, but as you know, she's very busy, so I'm still not sure yet. She excused herself and parted ways with Miran, completely ignoring Jango. After Chai Unbai left, Miran waved to Jango. Miran whispered to Jango, Actually, I was just passing by earlier, and I saw you grabbing the director in front of the elevator. That's right, Jango did not deny it. Miran asked, It's because the director threw away the kid's present, right? Jango explained, It seems that you saw everything. I know that I might have crossed a line, but I don't think what the director did was right either. Miran agreed, but the director's situation is different from everyone else's. His situation? Jango questioned. I mean, Director Zhang was involved in a hit-and-run accident. The company tried to keep it a secret, but they said that he was seriously injured and suffered from amnesia. They said he lost 3 years' worth of memories. I think this was a couple years ago now. They also mentioned that he doesn't remember serving in the military. Jango was so shocked hearing this for the first time. She remembered the phone call with Sungyu earlier. Was that what Sungyu was trying to convey? Miran continued to explain. I think he became more cautious after that incident. The same goes for those cookies. It's hard to blindly trust food that was prepared by strangers. Eating it would come with certain risks. Jango asked shakingly. Do you know when exactly the accident happened? Miran pulled out her phone to search for the information. She typed quickly in her phone and pulled up the information, showing it to Jango. This was an article about his accident. His family blocked all the articles. Only this one remains. 7 years ago, November 3rd. The day you promised to pick me up at 3 o'clock and go to the hospital together. Jango's face paled, concerning Miran. She asked assistantly, What's wrong? Are you all right? Jango replied, Yes, I'm fine. Thanks for informing me about it. Then she ran off without answering Miran's call for her. Did he really forget about me? Did he? She arrived, huffing in front of his office. Where's the director? The receptionist answered, He has a visitor. He's on the first floor. In the elevator, she questioned again. You weren't just pretending to forget me? You really don't remember anything about us? Not even Yena? How could you? How could you forget about me? Jango arrived on the first floor, glaring at Jihun, who was walking towards her direction. Her eyes watered looking at him. Noticing her intense glaring gaze, he looked around him to see if anyone was nearby. Then he looked back at her, confused with the look on her face. She took a big breath, bracing herself to go towards him. Upon approaching him, she asked, "Do you know who I am?" "Huh, of course I know. You're the copywriter, Assistant Lee. What else? Do you really not know?" she asked. She desperately wanted to know. Jihun, do you know, your child has been born? Our child is growing up so beautifully." And then, someone called out, "Babe, what are you doing here?" That voice. Jango turned around, and it was Chayun-bai coming towards them. "Appa, did I ever tell you? Assistant Lee is a friend from high school." She grabbed onto Jihun's arm, flashing her ring again. Jango stood frozen, shocked seeing this sight. "But Jango, is there something wrong?" The White Lotus Chai Unbai asked.